Welcome, folks, to this webinar, 2526 Scheduling Work Session here on this fine February afternoon. My name is Jake Vanskoy. I'm the head of training here at JMC. I thank you for joining us for this scheduling work session here. Scheduling was not something that was a part of my daily responsibilities as a teacher and instructional coach. However, we brought along Amy Bemis for the ride. Amy, do you want to say hi and let everybody know that you are actually qualified to run this?
Well, I have a lot of experience with it. I'm not sure if you're ever a scheduling expert, but as a high school counselor, I have done a lot of scheduling in my day. So, yep, I'm here to help and hopefully we can get everybody's schedules going smoothly.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And Rachel Cox. Rachel, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Cox. I am joining you from very cold Fergus Falls, Minnesota today. I also did the scheduling at my school. It was a smaller elementary, though. We had pre-K through 6, so I can help out with any of those elementary type questions, and we'll let Amy be the expert in everything else.
Hey, now.
And
No
I
pressure
joke,
whatsoever here, guys.
I have learned a lot about scheduling in my 5 years at JMC, and it is one of those topics that, it's complex. It's, depending on every school's need, every school seems to be just a little bit different in their approach to, whatever it be, master schedule building or scheduling a basic elementary schedule. It seems like everybody's a little bit different, and JMC has a lot of powerful tools that help lead you toward the path to success. There's a lot of stuff that you're gonna end up manipulating as you go, and many of you, especially if you've been scheduling at your school for a long time, you kind of know this. Scheduling is kind of an imperfect science, and there's an art to it. So the tools that we're going to show you today, the tools that we showed you yesterday, and moving forward are hopefully going to help move that scheduling process along for you quicker than what you could do on a whiteboard and with paper pencil. So whether you're new to JMC or an experienced office pro, JMC is here to help you create your master schedule. We're here to provide you with the opportunity to ask questions and receive assistance on any part of the scheduling process. In this session, we'll ask and answer questions that will help you prepare your courses and start scheduling students. And we'll also share some of our curated resources that will help you in every step along the way. So I think before we go any further, I'm going to highlight some of those resources. So if you joined us yesterday for our top scheduling tools webinar, I mentioned this as well, but all of February and March, I would say, are all about scheduling in JMC. And after you've had a chance to move up your data to the 25-26 school year, one of the first tasks that many guidance counselors especially start to begin to focus on would be the upcoming schedule and master schedule building for the 25-26 school year. So we know that happens right around this time. We want to put together the resources that are going to help move you along in your endeavors. And the first thing that I would like to show you is our help center. So if you access our help center through our widget right down here, you can click this Visit Help Center, and it's going to take you to our JMC Help Center. If you search scheduling in our help center, actually, if you show up to our help center right, from our widget, it's going to look a little bit like this. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can find our scheduling help center, or you can search it in our search bar. But the scheduling help center is going to be your best bet. And we've broken this down into kind of the 5 topics that we're going to go through today and answer your questions and hopefully provide some guidance. We go through building your scheduling framework, the basic scheduling tools, the advanced scheduling tools, and then the tools for finalizing and refining your schedule. And those are really the main steps, I guess you could say, for schedule building. We also have a few top scheduling tools that we identified yesterday. And down the road here, in March, we will have kind of basics of scheduling and an advanced scheduling session. It's on March 19th. We're going to do it before school and after school, so 7:30 and 3:30. I'd invite you to check out those. Those webinars are going to get more into the nitty gritty of actually how to do a lot of this stuff. So I would say this session is more geared toward folks that have probably been doing scheduling for a little while in their school. You've gone through the process before, and you might have some questions, or you might be in the process of building your schedule right now. So we're here to learn from each other. We're here to learn from Amy and Rachel, of course, and we're going to kind of high level a lot of these processes and show you where to find answers, or help answer your questions as we go. So without further ado, feel free to use that Q&A chat feature built right into Ring Central here, and that's how you can communicate with us, and we will answer your questions as they pop up. So we're going to start with that first section that we mentioned there, building your scheduling framework. The first question, or the prompt that we have for you guys, is has your school identified the number of periods in a day yet? And especially if you had already scheduled in JMC, many of you, this is going to be set already. But really what this impacts is, on the period attendance data edit attendance page, you've got all of these periods listed. And you can see I've got 0 through 9. These are all the periods that we're going to take attendance. And if you're in an elementary situation, you might only use 2 periods to take attendance. That's one of the utilities of these, the number of periods in a day. The other utility is when you're actually building your courses, how many, let's add a section here. How many periods do you want available in this drop-down list right here? So you can see there are 9 periods available. So when I create a section of courses, is this 0 through 9? Is this 0 through 2? What do we want that number to be? So you can adjust this on the file administrator options page, and it's this drop-down list right here. You can go through the number of periods in a day, the number of days in a cycle. You can label your days. You can label your unscheduled period text that shows up on student schedules. Amy or Rachel, anything to add about this number? What folks should think about when they're selecting a number in the school settings here?
One thing I would maybe add, Jake, is we do have some schools that have one building despite being elementary through high school. What would you recommend for that?
That's a great question. I was going to bring that up too. So if you have one JMC building for a high school and elementary, so your K-12, you've got one JMC building in your K-12, you have to cater to the grade level that has the largest number of periods. So even if you're in elementary school and you're K through 6, you only take attendance 2 times a day, so you want this number to be 2. If you're in the same building as your high school, you have to go off of your high school schedule. So if your high school has 9 periods in a day, this number has to be 9. If you have 2 separate buildings, you have an elementary building and a high school building in JMC, so this drop-down list would actually list 2 or 3 different buildings. You can select the number of periods that would be the highest number of periods for the highest grade level in your course. So, excellent question. Any user questions? Yeah.
We do, sorry. Should you assign a period to lunchtime? Bob is wondering.
Ooh, this is a great question. Amy or Rachel, do you want to take a stab at it?
Our lunch was built into one of the other periods. We had a 5th period, so we had some again, a high school. So some of them would have lunch first and then class. They'd have class and then lunch, but we did not have a separate period for lunch.
Yeah, to add to that, I think my suggestion would be, in general, do you take attendance for it and do you grade for it? Or do you take attendance or do you grade for it? So if you have somebody in the lunchroom that takes attendance, you might want to consider making lunch its own course and having its own period. I know for Minnesota state reporting purposes, you've got the ability, if you're calculating your bell schedule minutes, you've got the ability to label a period that happens during lunch. So much like what Amy suggested there, if fifth period you have lunch and fifth period is an hour long, most of your other periods is in there to account for like a lunch A and B situation. You can denote in that calendar that you're that the fifth period is the lunch period, but that's more for a Minnesota state reporting purpose. It isn't anything that you would need to do for scheduling. So bottom line is, if you take attendance for it, include it as a period.
And then there was one more. Christina is wondering if we have not yet determined how many periods or days we will have, are we able to move forward with registering students for courses?
Ooh, good question. Let me think this through here for a second. So if you are considering, I'm just going through the scenario that's probable, like your school is currently in a 9-period day and you're looking at potentially moving to like a 6-period block schedule, for example. There are pieces that you could schedule. There are things that you can do with the scheduling process while you hammer out that detail. For example, you can update your courses. You can update your course data lists. You can register students for courses, because if you know all of your students, regardless of how many periods you're going to have, your freshmen are going to take English 9. We know we're teaching English 9. You can absolutely register your students for English 9. But when it gets to scheduling students into sections, like you're running the scheduling aid, for example, you're not going to be able to do that until you know how many periods you're going to have in your day. There might be some section details also that you would need to hold off on. Like, for example, if you wanted to list constraints or the number of periods, or like if you know that English 9 is going to be 5th period, you're not going to be able to, change that until you have the set number of periods that your school is going to be working with. So, Rachel, Amy, anything to add to that? Did I miss anything?
No, it sounded right to me.
I don't think so. I mean, like you said, just kind of getting some of that setup stuff done. So that's ready for when the decision is made. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Great question, Christina. Anything else?
Not right now.
No.
Sweet. All right. So we can go to sort of our prompt number 2, if you will. Do you have new teachers or need to assign advisees to teachers or advisors? So, Amy, in a second, I'm going to show everybody where this is, but Amy, in a second, I'm going to ask what your school's process was for if you knew you had a new teacher coming in, you knew that teacher was going to replace maybe your retiring teacher, but you didn't know who that teacher was. So
Okay.
there's your heads up on that.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
The process that we're talking about is actually on the attendance, staff, teachers page. So attendance, staff, teachers, you have new teachers coming in, you need to add new teachers. You come to this page, you click the add teacher button, and fill out the fields. And this is what's, this is going to add your new teacher. You have a teacher that gets married midway through the year and we have a last name change. You can fill out the former last name field and update the new last name. So it's just an additional piece, something that might happen throughout the year. But Amy, what do you do to replace a teacher that might be retiring, or maybe even using a teacher as a placeholder for, you're going to hire a math teacher, but you haven't hired one yet? So.
Right. Well, like we've talked about in some meetings, you could just do a generic new math teacher. You could put that up there, and then that once you figure out who that person is, you can trade it out. You could also, I mean, really, if you thought they were going to be hired at a relatively early time, before summer or something, you could just leave your current teacher in there until you knew what the new change would be, just to make sure that you still had somebody tied to those math classes, just for record keeping and whatnot. But But you can always add new math teacher and just have that placeholder there.
So let's just say we're changing out. Mr. Borgman's retiring.
Borgman. Hmm.
So would your process then, okay, we leave Mr. Borgman in, and then
Hmm.
when the new teacher comes in, we would overwrite Mr. Borgman's data with the new teacher? Or do you transfer sections, or how would you handle it?
Um, I typically, I think I went and added like to a new number. I just never knew for sure. It made me feel better to start with a new number, and then I just would get Mr. Borgman out of there. But you can use that transfer sections option if you kind of want to show what that looks like, Jake.
Sure. Yeah, so transfer course sections to another teacher. So if you created your new teacher there, like that new math teacher, I don't know if I
Hmm.
actually saved, but
Right.
we know that all of Mr. Borgman's our old math teacher. We've got the schedule set up for him to teach all of his math courses. We can go
Right.
into our new math teacher, whoever it is, and just transfer all of their course
Hmm.
sections to the teacher. So
So
that's
there
a
are
way.
some advantages to leaving the teacher in there until you've got the new one set.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if they might be coming back, you know.
Yeah.
Retirement is it's not a static venture, right?
No, it's not.
Any questions coming in about adding new teachers?
I don't see any.
Kind of our
No.
last fundamental here would be adding your classroom list and
Jake,
or adding.
sorry, can I add one thing? The
Sure.
other piece to the last question about like advisors,
Advisors.
um, that's especially important, I think, for those elementary classes. So, you have your classroom teacher who's got, half your second grade kids or whatever, and you want to just bulk assign all of those second graders to that teacher. One thing we would have to do, in the next year, we would have to unassign students from, say, their second grade teacher because they're going to be in third grade next year, and then we could bulk assign them to the third grade teacher. So this assigning advisees in bulk was a really simple way to do that. I would just limit by grade level, get all the students assigned to that teacher, and then um, I'd be ready to go.
Yeah. So let's say Mrs. Cox is a second grade teacher and her advisees are now third graders. We can come in here easily and click to remove. They're going to go back to the available students list. And then we can come over here and click to add all of the second graders or her selected second graders as her advisees. And I glazed over this part of the process. In elementary scheduling, when you are bulk loading courses by advisor, this is a key to that. You know, you assign your homeroom students to their advisor, and this will allow you to bulk load efficiently and quickly. So thanks for bringing that up, Rach.
Yep. And it
Any
does
questions?
look like we do have a teacher question coming in here. Angela would like to know if you transfer or set up a new teacher and use the same teacher number, will it change previous year or start the new year?
It's going to be year specific. So as long as you are in the upcoming year, 25, 26, here I'll demonstrate this so you know I'm not full of hooey. But I'm going to go back to 24, 25, and I'm going to look in my teacher list. 42 is empty, so I'm going to go to 25 and let's go to 42. Okay, and we're going to call this. We're going to give them building access. We're going to call this. Uh, Mr. Jameson. Oops, he doesn't have a former last name. Update. We're going to call this a new teacher. Okay. So that's teacher number 42. If I go back a year, teacher 42 should still be empty, I believe. Yeah, 42 is still this blanked out teacher. So, yep, any changes that you should be making for your schedule should be done in the new school year 25-26, and that's noted with that little blue. This current school year's in purple, so our blue highlighting will let you know what year you're in. All right. We ready to move on? Any other questions? Because this last piece on assigning rooms and room names and room numbers, this is part of that master schedule building process. It shows up on students' printed schedules. It also works as a constraint, so you're not scheduling two courses in the same classroom. We know a lot of teachers probably have the same classroom that they're in all year round, but on occasion we have roaming teachers that might teach out of a variety of classrooms, and your teachers might move as opposed to your students. So you can update your your room names here. You just click the edit link next to a room. You can assign a student capacity for the room as well. You can name the room by a number. You can throw a teacher's name in there if it might make it more easily identifiable on a student schedule. So if you have new teachers, you're going to have new room names as well potentially. So that would be something to update. But any questions on that? It's pretty straightforward with the rooms.
No questions on that, but I think Angela's got a follow up about teacher numbers. So what she's asking is, can she change the teacher number with an old teacher just to clean up the list and move them up? I think maybe what she's asking is if you have a teacher who retired at the end of this school year, and then in the next school year, if you took that same teacher's record, could you just overwrite their information with the new teacher? And maybe hopefully Angela can let me know if I have that right or not.
If it's like similar to cleaning up a course data list, I think I understand. So let's say you weren't alphabetical and you were one of those folks that are like, I want my teachers listed alphabetically on this. Can you rearrange? I don't, and somebody chime in, as long as you haven't done any scheduling yet, this list can remain pretty fluid. The big things are like if you have staff types like for state reporting or for fast access or MTSS access, and you've got file folder numbers in there, all of that information would need to go in the new slot. So you might want to print your teachers, so you have all of this information before you just start like clearing out and adding stuff. But I don't see a reason why you couldn't reorganize your list as needed.
Yeah, and I think the first thing that you mentioned, Jake, is as long as there isn't any like data assigned to them yet. So like once you move up to the new school year, if you want to change it at that point, but once any scheduling has been done or anything like that, you would want to avoid changing that.
Yeah. This is actually a good time to be thinking about some of those changes that you'd want to make, or cleaning up your database, cleaning up your course data list, which is what we're going to talk about here next. But yeah. Any other questions?
No, I think that's it. I think we got it.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So we got through the rooms. So those are kind of the foundational aspects. Kind of to touch on some of the basic scheduling tasks. Do you need to add new courses or make updates to existing courses? Probably the first thing, and it's definitely the most time-consuming aspect of scheduling, I think. I think most folks would probably start on this course data list. So schedules, course data list. I'm going to kind of show you the final view and how the course data list helps. But if I go to the edit course data page, I've got all of the course information, including course name, term type, grade scale, whether it's in the report cards or not. And then I have section details. So these are the actual classrooms that would constitute a course. It probably has a different term to it too. So for example, I've got a semester 1 and should probably have a semester 2 for comp 2 if it meets yearly. But this course data list is a great one-stop shop to show you all of your courses. So what I usually do, especially at the start of the scheduling process, I'll grab the course schedule info, so this third radio button. I remove the check mark that would only include courses with students enrolled. I haven't done any enrolling yet, so if I ran this without with this checked, none of my courses would show up on my list. I click preview and I probably print this list out, and I actually have my full list saved. And this is just going to give me the course number, and it's going to give me the course name. And as you can see, I've got a ton of courses, and this probably happens all over. You've built your database up for 20 years, 30 years. It gets pretty, courses come and go. We don't delete them promptly. Now you're sitting here at the beginning of the scheduling process and you're like, I've got all these courses. There's no rhyme nor reason to how they're listed. I want to clean up this course data list. This is a great time to do that. Amy, how did you organize your course data list? Not to put you on the spot here, but one of the things that we talk about for elementary schools in particular is you want to get your grade levels all kind of lined up in the same, so here, if you look at my course number 20 through 25, I've got all of my second grade courses there listed. How did you like to organize your course data list from maybe a high school perspective? And then Rachel, maybe you can speak to it from an elementary perspective.
As much as we were able, we like to do it by content area. So all of the English classes, if we could, we had all of the English classes together, the math classes together, and so on. We tried to leave at least a couple spaces, couple numbers in between, so that if we added a new English course, we had a place to put them. So it was just easiest to be able to figure out what we had, to scroll through the list, to find numbers. We knew that all of our English numbers were from, I don't know, 100 to 110 or whatever. So yeah, it worked best for us to do them in content areas.
Okay. So Rachel, how does your elementary differ as far as your course data lists are concerned?
Sure. We would do ours by grade level and teacher. So we would start with like our lowest grade level, which was preschool. Sometimes we would have 2 preschool classrooms, but sometimes we would have 3. So kind of like what Amy said, I would have pre-K, Miss Amy, and I would have my courses for Amy listed there. And then I would maybe leave a few lines blank, and then my other preschool course, and then that kind of floating one I would have there as well, but keeping space between those teachers. And like kindergarten was another great example. The school I was in, we had 1 classroom per grade level, but our kindergarten numbers are always kind of big. So every year we'd have to decide, like, do we need a second kindergarten classroom? So we would have like kindergarten reading Mrs. Larson, but we'd want to save some spaces between the first grade classes and the kindergarten classes so that if we did have to fit in some additional kindergarten classes, we had space to do that. And then we didn't have, some kindergarten at the top of our list and then way at the bottom of our list because we didn't leave room for growing.
So I think kind of what you're referring to, there's space, space on the list here. You see we have a course number 590, course number 591, and then we have this little gap where, up to 596. So if we needed to wedge in a third section of preschool, for example, if you had 3 or 4 lines available, you could add 3 or 4 courses as needed. And this kind of touches on a major point as far as what should be added as a course. If I'm talking about elementary, if you're thinking of what you're going to assess, if you've got teachers that are maybe keeping grade books up, like elementary, like early elementary, kindergarten, depending on what your report card looks like, you might only have 1 kindergarten course. And your teachers might use a standard-based report card, and they have all of the standards listed. So there might not be a need to break up your kindergarten into subject areas like math, science, social studies. As you get older, potentially, you might have those courses broken out into different subject areas. So you might have like a second grade math Johnson, second grade English Johnson, second grade science Johnson. So you might end up with, 5 or 6 or maybe even up to 8 courses, when you include specials for each grade level. So it wouldn't be uncommon to see 6 or 8 second grade courses per teacher on a course data list. So I did want to mention that. The last thing that I wanted to show is like, all right, I've got this course list. How do I move courses around, So I'm just going to identify space, and kind of like what Amy mentioned earlier. Let's say I wanted to reorganize, and all my English classes, I want to make them 650 to 660. So I've got to find them first on my list. So I'm going to go just command find and English. Where are all of my English courses? I should have English 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, all right, here's an English one. So course 57, I want to make it 650. Well, as long as 650 doesn't have a course in it, all I need to do is go to my schedules course, edit course data page, pull up course 57, and change the number to an available number. So 650, save. And now when I run my course list, English 1, make this a little bit easier to see. Here's English 1, 650. If I go back to my course data list and rerun it, what used to be 57 is now, it should be available, or it's not even going to show up on my list. So 56 to 58, it's now an available course. And if I scroll down to 650, right here, here's my new English 1, and both sections show up. So a lot of folks take this time to reorganize their course data list in some sort of a fashion that lends itself to some rhyme or reason. Any questions coming through?
Yeah, teacher, is a question. Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
Sorry, Amy. So while you're cleaning up this list, what is the best way to delete a course you don't use anymore?
Awesome. I like it. Here we go. So we're going to go to, this is really simple, honestly. I'm just going to pull up a course that I know we don't use. So let's say we no longer teach statistics. Okay. Since there aren't any sections, there's nothing I need to do down here. I would delete out sections if there were any that existed. All I need to do to make this an available course is delete the name and click save. So 48, course 48, now that I've deleted out the course name, I've saved it. As I'm scrolling through, course 48 shows up with nothing in it. And also if I type in available courses, 48 is listed now as an available course. So if you're on the edit course data page, here's a little life hack. If you're looking to see like, oh, I just need to find a course in the 600s that's available, I could either type in the course number and it's going to jump to 600. It's going to show me what's, what is listed for 600. Or I can type in available courses and scroll down here and I can see what's on my list. Like, all right, I have a good gap between 650 and 660, it looks like. So I can rearrange my course data list kind of using this available course tool as well.
And is there any other data that would need to be deleted from this screen? Like if there's an alternative course ID or anything like that, or is it just that course name that needs to be deleted?
If you have, so really the course name is the only thing that needs to be deleted, and it's going to show up as an available course. If there's anything that you would want to use, like if you wanted to reuse course number 40, was it 48? Okay. Mm-hmm. It still has the term type. It still has all of these, honor roll checkboxes, and everything's still configured the way. It doesn't do a factory reset or anything like that. Might even still have the grading scheme. The grading scheme wasn't set, but When you're setting up your new course in course 48, you would just pay attention to all of these fields and make sure that this course is set up properly, which is kind of what your next step would be in setting up a basic course. I would add a course name. I would add a term type. Am I using the regular grading scale? Yes. What's the block length? This one. Do I want it on the report card? Yes. Does it count in the honor roll? Yes. Is it required that everybody take Math 1? This is kind of an advanced thing. I'm not going to talk much about it here, but you could decide whether it's a required course or an elective. That's more for having students choose their own courses and course registration. When do grad credits begin? When do cumulative credits begin? I click save. As long as I paid attention to all of these fields, that's me creating a course. This is me deleting a course. Yeah. So that's really all there is to it. Rach, Amy, anything to add to that?
I think you've got it.
Right. Next item, what's the best way to schedule students into sections for your situation? So this is down the road here a little bit. There are a few different ways to skin this, but after you've cleaned up your courses, which is probably going to take the longest, once you've cleaned up your courses, you got a few different ways that you can schedule students. Schedules, student, edit schedules. This is I would say the least efficient way is to schedule them one at a time. So let's pull up a student. We've got this student right here, and we can build this student's individual schedule. So what is Keisha taking? Well, in Sem 1, she's going to take English 4. I can come in here, I can grab English 4. And English 4.
She can take English 3.
Take English 3. She's going to take that in Sem 1. I can save, and I can just go right down the list and pull up the courses that she's going to take. So that's kind of the slow way of doing it. Much faster way of doing it. And that's, depending on what you need to do, this might be the best way to go about it. Another little bit faster way would be under schedules, develop schedule by section. This is where if all right, let's see here, who's going to be taking that Math 2? I guess I don't have any sections for Math 2. Let's grab. Okay, so physical science. So I know that my 9th graders are going to be taking physical science, and I only have one section that they could possibly take. It is this period 6 in Sem 1. And I'm just going to go right down the list and add the students to that section right there. So there's still a few more clicks to this method, but that's another way to get students into a section. I can save. And then you can copy and move stuff. I think we went through this yesterday in our tools. You can copy students from one section to another. So I could grab that physical science then and take all of my students here and copy into, where's my physical science there? Course 4 into Sem 2. Just prepare to move, copy, proceed. Boom. And now my 23 students are in both Sem 1, Sem 2. So a few more clicks. It might work for a situation or two if you find yourself in one. Probably the most efficient would be bulk loading courses. This is where you can bulk load by advisor. So we know Mrs. Cox's 2nd graders are going to be taking the 2nd grade courses. So we can come in here and say, Mrs. Cox's advisees are going to be taking 2nd grade math, language arts, phy-ed, art. And I can load all of those, and it's going to say 9 students have been loaded into 4 courses. So Um, those are the three basic ways. Anybody have any questions on scheduling students into courses?
Jake, we had a couple of questions from the last section. We just
Yeah.
didn't get in there fast enough. So when deleting a course, you do have to remove the sections that are already set up, or it won't let you delete the name. So how does it work when deleting a course if you do have sections there?
So let's see here. Let's grab a course that does have sections. Or yeah, right here. Okay, so this course has two sections to it. If I delete out the course name and save, okay, it's still going to show up as an available course. It's just going to have the sections there. So if I pull up my course data list, course 5 shows up as an available course, and there's still sections that are there. If I don't schedule students into this and into course number 5, there's really nothing that's going to happen. This, as long as course number 5, depending on if you're doing online registration, as long as you don't have course 5 selected for students that to be available to sign up for that course, the course doesn't exist as far as the software is concerned. So you could leave your sections in there. It's pretty easy. A couple clicks, you can delete them. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. And then also on that same page, what is the include in teacher conference button for?
Great question here.
Yeah.
So if your school uses the teacher conference scheduler, I'm going to have to probably go back into this current school year to show you. So what the conference scheduler does is it allows you to, it allows your families to sign up for conferences from JMC Family. And there are two ways that they can sign up for conferences. The first way is if their student is an advisee of the teacher. So for example, Mrs. Cox's second grade students, we want them to be able to sign up for a conference with her as the advisee, and that's it. Okay. That's one way of doing it. The other way to do it is to set up conferences by course, which is probably more common in middle schools and high schools where one student might have 6 different teachers. So if you are in elementary and you want to exclude a course from teacher conference scheduler or from the teacher conference schedules, you would just remove the check mark. And now this course isn't going to show up on, your families aren't going to be able to sign up for conferences for this course. I think there's another on the attendance staff teachers page. If you did not want to include a teacher in the conference scheduler, you could also remove that, and that's going to exclude the teacher. So depends on how your conferences are set up. I would encourage you to watch that teacher conference scheduler YouTube video. We kind of go through everything there is for setting that up, but you can set it up at the course level or for the teachers. So.
There are also a couple bulk loading questions, Jake.
All right.
So the first one, once the students are bulk loaded, how do you add them to the right section? And then I'm just going to give you the second one as well. On the bulk load, does that set them up for all 4 quarters, or do you do that for every quarter?
All right. Let's see here. How should we go about answering this one, Amy?
Sorry, I had to cough. Let's see. So let's tackle the 4 quarters first.
So we bulk loaded second grade courses, right? So I got to find them on my course data list right here. Okay. So they're course 21 through 23, or 21 and 22. We bulk loaded those 2 courses. Okay. So we have 9 students in both of those courses. And this course is set up to be, both of these courses are set up to be semester courses. So we have Sem 1, Sem 2, and then Sem 1, Sem 2. So all of these students, when we bulk loaded, they go to the entire year's worth of course, if that makes sense. Now, to get them into the actual sections, what we would do is we'd go to schedules, develop, schedule students, and to think about that, schedules, develop, schedule students. And we have those kids registered for courses, and now we want to push those students into sections. Here is where we can decide that we want to schedule for the entire year, or if we just want to one specific semester. You know, it assumes that you want to do Sem 1 already when you're scheduling courses. So, you know, prefer year courses, prefer the same period all year round. There's some other options that are on this page, but see here, we're going to process. It's not going to want me to do this right now because we're kind of in the middle of a school year. Was I in the right school year? Was I in 24, 25?
Because you flipped back, didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Might be able to pump this password in there.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I'm in 24, 25, so that's part of my issue. That is all of my issue. Let's go back to our course data list. It didn't look quite right. Yeah, here we go. Here's my second graders. There we go. Those numbers look a little bit more right for me. So now we're going to go schedule second grade. I don't know that this is going to work off the bat, but we're going to give it a try. So course 21 is what we're looking at. So when we're looking at these numbers for course 21, I can already tell you it's not going to work because I have two Sem 2s. So let's go to 21. Schedules, schedules course, course data, course 21. One of these Sem 2s. All right, who's taken Jim Asith and Allie Cooper? So let's remove these kids.
That's a pretty handy feature, Jake, how you hovered over that number and you could see those students' names. So then you know who's enrolled in that class. So that's saves you from trying to go to another list and looking at it.
Absolutely. Well, heck here. You know what? I'm going to have to give it to you on principle, and I suppose you're going to have to take my word on this. But the schedule students, I know this isn't going to work out for me because I don't have this set up properly. You know, we just kind of moved up our database. Oops, did I just stop screen share? How bad? They hid the button that I need. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah,
Yep.
you're good.
Okay. They hid the button that I needed. All right, but yeah, this is going to push those students into sections then. Any other questions?
So I think, Jake, once they're bulk loaded, then you go to your schedule students, and that's going to get them. So that Christina, that I hope that answers your question there.
Yeah. So yeah, the general process, and if you're looking for like specifics on how to do this, we do have a YouTube video available on scheduling, the elementary scheduling. I'm using that bulk load. So let's call it all about elementary scheduling. I would recommend watching this video. It's going to go through the loading. It's going to go through, so this is registering students for courses, that's the bulk loading, and then placing students into course sections, that's going to be the schedule students. And we show how to do that, right around the 15-minute mark. And March 9th, we're going to go into detail, or 19th, I'm sorry, we're going to go into detail with the scheduling students into sections and pushing students. But that's the gist of it, is you bulk load students, and once you've bulk loaded your courses, then you would go to schedule students. So schedules develop schedule students. And this is going to be, typically I would do this for, my entire elementary, schedule all of them. I'd go back to the course data list and rerun this, including courses with students enrolled. And what I would see is, courses with matching numbers like this: 23 students scheduled into the course or registered for the course, and 23 students scheduled into this section. You ready to move on? So several different options here. So
yeah, I think so. But I think you're right, Jake, is that if people want a little bit more in-depth help with some of these processes, that March 19th pair of webinars is just a great place to go.
All right, so advanced scheduling tasks. So what we talked about up to this point kind of works for everybody. It's, it's kind of what you would consider like elementary scheduling, and then the basics for scheduling high school. What we're talking about, advanced scheduling tasks, these are things that if you are in a high school situation where you have maybe multiple teachers, kids moving to multiple classes, you're taking attendance for multiple classes throughout the day, you've got what we would consider a master schedule. These are some of these tasks or tools that you might find useful. Again, we're going to be going into much more depth with these on that March 19th advanced scheduling. But there are any questions on utilizing advanced scheduling tools like prerequisites or constraints, or utilizing co-teachers in JMC? And kind of what we're referring to here is also on the edit course data page. Zoom back out here a little bit. Constraints, these pieces here allow you to set up your courses for that scheduling aid. So you can determine like, all right, I know geometric conversations can only happen during try 2 and 3 due to teacher availability. And the teachers that we have for that course can only teach them in periods 2 through 9. And we can only have 15 students in that course. So the constraints basically allow you to set up your course so that when you use the scheduling aid to create your master schedule, your optimal master schedule, it takes these factors into account. So, Amy, I know you're more well versed in the scheduling aid than anybody. Do you have anything to speak to regarding constraints?
I was in a small school, so we had throughout the district, we had to share teachers. So we wanted to get that really, really set up firmly, our constraints, because my PE teacher couldn't teach high school PE during, fourth period and sixth period and seventh, whatever it was. So I wanted to make really sure before I ran that scheduling aid that I had my constraints so that I knew exactly when my teachers were available, which days of the week. I also used it to decide maybe I had 3 sections of government. I knew based on the number of kids that I had that I would have 3 sections of government. My constraints allowed me to determine when those classes took place. Say I wanted one during first semester, I wanted one during second semester, and then the third class could float. It just kind of depended on the scheduling aid as far as when that class was offered. So for the first one, I would mark it, or trimesters is fine. So I might mark the first one as just trimester 1. I might mark the second section as trimester 2. And then I might just leave it open for that third section, and it could fall wherever it fell in that schedule. So the constraints is really a way of controlling when things can happen in terms of terms and periods. If that all makes
Awesome.
sense. It's
Yeah.
just, it's a great thing to get set up. It doesn't carry over. So you need to remember every year when you're getting ready to do your scheduling to go in and set your constraints. I had a teacher that was only available in the morning. So I made sure that for each of the classes he taught, I had those constraints set up.
Anybody who has done high school scheduling knows just how complex
Mhm.
schedules get. And while these constraints are not going to necessarily get you 100% of the way there, they're going to get you further than what you can and further and faster than what you could
Right.
probably get there in paper pencil. So
Right.
um, great. Thank you for that explanation. And again, not to plug it again, but that March 19th advanced scheduling webinar, we go through how to use the scheduling aid along with constraints and things like that. But something for you elementary teachers that might be joining us. On the teachers tab, this is kind of an advanced scheduling tool. If we have a co-teaching situation where we know a lot of our, second grade, third grade, fourth grade might have an associate that they want to use to take attendance, or it might be a true co-teaching situation where we need two teachers to be able to access different gradebook functions. You can add a second teacher now to your courses here. It's you grab the section. Your teacher one is the teacher that you've assigned on this sections page right here. That's teacher one. Teacher two can be that co-teacher. And the really nifty feature about this is you can give teacher two attendance only access or full access to teacher gradebooks. So teacher two would have their own login. They would then see this course and be able to take attendance or be able to use the gradebook tools. So awesome new feature. We've had a lot of folks asking for that. It's very handy in both high school and elementary situations, but kind of an advanced tool. So any questions on either of those?
I don't see any.
All right. Moving right along here. Does your high school allow students to register themselves for electives through JMC? Another advanced scheduling feature thing that we allow would be for students to use the JMC student portal to actually register for courses. A lot of schools do this paper pencil. They might hand out sheets, they might hand out your course catalog and say, hey guys, we know that you're going to be taking X, Y, and Z, but you have the opportunity to pick from these courses to fill out the remainder of your schedule. We allow you to do this in JMC. It's kind of an automated process, pretty slick, but you can choose the courses. So I'm going to be under the wrong place here. Help me out with this one, Amy. It's under.
Let me see here.
I don't know where to go afterwards, but courses to add. That's what it is.
Here we go.
So,
Sorry. It's like the more I stare at it, the more I can't find it.
Yeah, courses to add here. So how the overall process would work is you would bulk load students into the courses that you know that they're going to take. You bulk load your freshmen into English 9. You bulk load your sophomores into English 10. And, you fill out those required courses. And then for the electives, you can go in here and you can say, all right, I'm going to allow my ninth graders and 10th graders to sign up for Math 2. That's not really much of an elective. Find something that might be more of an elective. Here, band. Exactly, band. I'm going to allow anybody that's in high school to sign up for band if they want to. And once you've got these courses to add set, then you can, then your students can go in, they can register for courses. You can run a registration check to see what courses your students have self-registered for, in addition to the courses that you have registered them for. So you can see how many total credits your students have, and then you can use these tools to kind of fill out student schedules. So Amy, anything to add? I know this is something that you kind of did paper pencil. Wasn't anything that you really did in JMC. What was your thought process on that? How could JMC shave time off using it this way, do you suppose?
Oh, just running the report and being able to check it that way. I had small numbers, so I think that's why I did it. If you had larger numbers, then this is a good way to check it and just make sure that those kids are getting enough credits, because they're always trying to pull something. You have those kids that are just not going to sign up for as many and hope that you don't catch it. And so this registration check, just pulling all that information together and making sure that you keep everybody on track.
Great. Any questions coming through on student registration, self-registration?
I don't see any.
There is one question about the co-teacher again in Minnesota. So Christina wants to know if that is possible in Minnesota. She was told that they could only have one teacher listed for each course. That would probably be a good question for the MDE, just to make sure that you're following those guidelines.
And log into a Minnesota database. I was just in an Iowa database. See if the feature exists. Teachers. Okay. So here's the big difference between Minnesota and Iowa, and this is from a state. This is why the holdup existed for this feature for so long. First off, the state of Minnesota and many states didn't want you to list two teachers in the same course because they need to make sure that the teacher's certified to teach the course, and everything's legal and kosher. And that's why one teacher, one classroom. We know that this teacher is qualified to teach this course. They have a file folder number on file, and that's what indicates what credentials they have. So we have this teacher of record checkbox, and then we have teacher two that can be granted attendance or full access. And if they're listed as a teacher of record, then their file folder number will be associated with the course. So this is a state reporting thing. If the course is one of those courses that is reported for, I think it's MCCC reporting in Minnesota, you would have to have the teacher of record be the teacher that has the file folder number that contains the certification to teach the course. You could allow teacher two to gain access to the grade book without reporting that teacher to the state through MCCC, as long as this checkbox is unchecked. I know that gets down to kind of a rabbit hole. So as Rachel mentioned, contact the Minnesota Department of Ed just to make sure that you're doing it correctly. But yes, that functionality exists in JMC.
Jake, if I can pose a couple more questions here.
Sure.
Okay, how do you add those who registered for their own courses, so students registering through JMC Student, to their correct section? And how do you not schedule a course that they added, and not schedule a course they added that can't be used?
Great question. That's really where the scheduling aid is going to come into effect. So we brought it up a few times here. So schedules develop, where's the scheduling aid? Right here. Mm-hmm. So what the scheduling aid does as a tool, after you have bulk loaded students into the courses that are required, after students have registered for courses that they want to take, what the scheduling aid does is you run this probably for 9/12, for example, and it's going to look at all of those constraints. It's going to look at the courses that students have registered for. And if it doesn't work out in their schedule, I believe it's going to be flagged on this and to say, hey, there's a conflict here. And we also have a conflict analysis report that you can run. And I think it's under schedules, student
Nope, up above, student conflicts.
conflicts. Oh yeah, there we go. We were
Yep,
just talking about this one here.
yep.
We can go by what's the best way to do this? I don't know if I'm going to even show conflicts right here, but I think I'm going by grade, so this is going to show courses. I want to see
Conflicts.
conflicts by student, right? Or
This, you're just sorting by grade right now, but then you could pick specific students or
I'm trying to think of how
there's just not many kids in this database yet.
right. Mike Martin was kind of showing off this tool to show the conflicts that students might have or how to resolve some of those conflicts. So if a kid signed up for welding and indicated also that he wanted to take I don't know, creative writing, and both of those courses are only offered sixth period. So there would be a conflict there. We wouldn't be able to shove them into one or both of those courses. So I believe it's the conflicts for a student. Let's see here. It would show any courses that they had that would be in conflict with anything else. I don't know if that's not necessarily showing what I need, but two tools anyway. It's the scheduling aid. Sorry, schedules develop scheduling aid, and then the conflict analysis reports are going to show. The scheduling aid is going to find the optimal schedule based on what the student has registered for and what you've bulk loaded them into. And then you've got the conflicts report. It's going to show if you've got a kid that signed up for a course that they can't take.
And sometimes, Christina, I'm going to add to that just a little bit about that. If they end up somehow scheduled into a course that they shouldn't be taking or they don't need to be taking, they've taken again. Sometimes the easiest way with an individual student in a situation like that is just to go to student edit schedules and then remove that course from their schedule. Sometimes just doing it that way is the easiest way. So say that Jim is not supposed to be taking second grade language arts. So he just checked that and he deletes that course. So that sometimes is just the way you have to tweak schedules a little bit. Hopefully that helped. And then we also had another question that said, will JMC be adding a feature for high school students to build their 4-year plans into the system like other SISs have? Do you know if there's been any talk about 4-year plans in JMC, Jake?
Yeah, we've brought this up. My understanding is, and I'm only familiar with Iowa,
Right.
is there's an I have a plan in Iowa. Amy, you probably know more about it than I do, actually.
There are different ones that are accepted by the state, different vendors. Like I used one through Iowa State that was called Plan Your Adventure.
Yeah.
So I think they're all set up a little different, which is probably kind of hard.
And in Iowa, there is no other student information system that allows students to submit their 4-year plan to the state. I know that's the Iowa thing. It's all handled outside of the SIS.
Right. Ours was through this other website, and they just were submitted to the state from that website.
Yep. And when I talked to some folks down at the Department of Ed for Iowa anyway, and asked, is this something that we could look into adding into JMC, and they said that they wanted this capability to remain outside of student information systems. Like this is an Iowa State University thing. Go Cyclones. But yeah, it might be different in Minnesota and Wisconsin, Nebraska. It might be different in other states in the Midwest, but yeah. All right.
All right.
Moving on. Yeah, we just touched on this, so I won't necessarily go too in depth in this, but the scheduling aid streamlines scheduling while minimizing conflicts according to your constraints. There aren't any questions on the scheduling aid. Again, I would plug that 19th, the March 19th webinar where we'll have some demonstrations set up so that we can show how the scheduling aid works and all that stuff. So if there aren't any questions on the scheduling aid or anything else, I'm going to move on. To refining and finalizing your schedules. There any questions regarding the most efficient way to verify your schedule through reports in JMC? And Amy or Rachel, I might just have you pinpoint a couple of your favorite reports for finalizing scheduling. What do you look at?
All right, I got to go over and look at my options here again.
I know we've talked about that course data list, talking about that at the beginning of the scheduling process, looking at the classes you have, anything you can clean up, but it's also useful after you've scheduled students as well. Yeah, so you can go to that schedule info. Exactly.
Yeah, so here's this is what I'm looking at. You know, I'm looking at the number of students enrolled versus the number of students that were registered. You know, do I see any glaring like, oh, okay, well, nobody's taken Comp 2 and Sem 2. That's a problem. I need to register students for that course. I know we've talked quite a bit about it. Course tally.
I was going to say, I like the course tally list, Jake.
Yeah, so here we have all of our courses. We've got all of our grade levels and the number of students by grade level that are registered for those courses. We can also see split between male and female. So, you know, we have one line to know how many females are taking second grade math versus how many males. Anything else that you liked about this course tally report?
You know, it just gave me a good idea of how many total kids I had, and then it showed the number of sections. Just really was a good visual for me in terms of how many kids am I putting in physical science 9, and how do I have them split up? And you know, looking at the males and females, when you've got high school students, it's pretty handy to know how many males you might have in. Well, not just males, I take that back, but it's handy to know how they're divided up. So just to, once things are scheduled, to be able to review the big picture and what you've got going on, it's just kind of nice to look at these reports and see those things.
Yeah, I might see this 32 students in English or in, physical science 9 and be like, oh no, I need another section. You know,
Right.
I only have one section listed. I might need another one, but
Yeah.
class
Of course, your
lists.
class lists, you know, those
Yeah.
are handy to have. Sometimes you want a printed class list, so having those is good.
Yeah. So this is going to give you the course, the teacher, and the students that are registered for that course. Questions?
I don't see any new ones.
You know, I thought I saw our number ticking up, but
Somebody had asked if the recording was going to be sent to them, and yes.
oh yeah, yes, yep. Might be a couple days, so keep an eye on it. We should be following up here probably by at the latest Wednesday next week. Otherwise, you can just keep an eye on YouTube. This will be uploaded to YouTube right away. Parting shots. Rachel, Amy, do you have anything that that you would like to add? That was quite the packed session
Sure was.
right there. I mean, just a little over an hour. There's so much with scheduling. You know, these work sessions are great because we get to hear your questions. It's a little less on the how-to, a little bit more interactive, hopefully for you. We run this style of webinar, you know, for a variety of topics, but we thought scheduling is one of those definitely that could use a Q&A session. But we will have the more nitty-gritty how-to sessions on scheduling coming up in the middle of March. So keep an eye on those if you're interested. Otherwise, anything that you'd like to add to before we peace out here? Or any additional questions that we didn't cover?
I don't think just once again, you know, that help center, like Jake talked about at the beginning, those resources are amazing. And some of them, you know, I've worked with several schools that have said I print out certain things at scheduling time. So I have them, and I have a binder that is just for my scheduling articles. So I think all of those things take advantage of all the resources. You know, you only do scheduling, well, big scheduling once a year. You go back and tweak things at semester typically, but it's hard to remember everything. And so knowing how to access your resources is a huge part of being successful.
Every one of those reports that we talked about, whether it's, you know, running the scheduling aid, you know, we tip of the iceberged it, you know, this will give you all of the steps and what every one of those buttons is doing, you know, same with the reports, you know, finalizing and refining your schedule. And our AI is getting better and better. And of course, if you ever have a question that you run into, like, oh, hey, I don't know necessarily how to do this, send us a message and we can chat with you.
One more thing I would maybe add is if you're planning to come to that March 19th webinar and you want to get some of your scheduling done, make sure you have your move up completed.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good plug for that. You know, if most of your scheduling you're going to want to do in the upcoming school year. So absolutely have your data moved up, you know, you can start cleaning up your courses and will join us for that March 19th webinar. So JMC news and upcoming events, rounding out our webinar calendar for February and into March. We have the importance of state reporting support next week, followed by March. We're going to go goodbye paper shuffle. Hello, new family enrollment portal. The new family enrollment portal should be available by then, so you'll have a chance to play around before we get into the nitty gritty with that. Second week of March, we're on to some Minnesota Common Course Catalog Ed-Fi reporting, followed by that third week of March, the aforementioned 319 basic scheduling for everyone and advanced scheduling for high school. So a big day of scheduling packed, and you can sign up if you click this link that will be in the PDF on this video in YouTube. So should have a link to register for this coming out in the email as well. In this working session, our trainers run through the basics of scheduling in JMC. This is a replay of this exact webinar that you're at. We'll have the link embedded into this email that I'll send out to you here in the next few days. As mentioned, your move up session, if you're ready to tackle one of your biggest end of year to-dos, moving your data and students up a grade level, we would love for you to get this completed sometime here in the next couple months. You can click this link here. It will take you to a webinar that we did about a month ago, explaining the move up process in general. So also a great time to look to add any new modules in JMC, like the community messenger, if your school does not already utilize it. Refer a friend, get $1,000 scholarship. That's right, now through March. For every school you refer to JMC that signs up for our software, we'll give you each $1,000 scholarship for your district. And to top it off, our team will throw you a pizza party for your front office staff. If you have any questions, reach out to sales@jmcinc.com. For Rachel and Amy, I thank you for joining us for this scheduling session. Hopefully we'll be catching you later for those March sessions as well. If you have any questions, please reach out to training@jmcinc.com, and we will catch you on the flip side.